What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel. And it's Sunday night and the end of a weekend in which I really hoped, faint hope perhaps, but I really hoped that one of the other two teams in the three-horse race for the title would falter a little bit. And it was so close. Liverpool left it to the very last action of the game against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, a ground they've never won at in the Premier League, for Darwin Núñez to score that dramatic header, seal all 3 points. It's the sort of thing that you get from champions, isn't it? You know, despite having over 10 players out injured, having to play players who've no Premier League experience, they still somehow came out of this week with 3 wins. Manchester City against Man United today, and I don't think I was the only one who predicted an absolute slaughter. So for Manchester United to go 1-0 up and maintain that 1-goal lead through the first half, even until the 56th minute, I was starting to believe, if I'm honest. And it's a hope that kills you, isn't it? Phil Foden equalised in the 56th minute with a wonderful shot, cancelling out Marcus Rashford's opener. It looked like Marcus Rashford was finally going to answer his critics with his football and not his PR videos. But after that fantastic opening goal, he kind of looked really lightweight and was substituted. Couldn't really work out what was wrong with Manchester City because they had a full-strength team out there. Haaland, who scored 5 midweek. Kevin De Bruyne, who is, in my opinion, one of the best midfielders ever to play in the Premier League. Foden, Silva, Rodri, Stones playing out of his skin at the moment. Really couldn't explain why it took them so long to finally take the lead. Foden with another absolute cracker in the 80th minute. And then, of course, Erling Haaland, who'd been really bad all game, missed one of the sitters of his career early in the first half. But then he scored as well. And I guess the worrying thing for Arsenal as we go into tomorrow's game against Sheffield United is that we've now seen in this weekend 2 performances from our title rivals, which really screams champions. Please forgive the interruption, but I just wanted to say this might be a really good time for you to click like, and if you haven't yet, subscribe. Thank you, and please continue to enjoy the video. Because somehow Liverpool managed to win when the odds were stacked against them, and Manchester City, despite playing not particularly well, managed to get all 3 points. But like I said, I wasn't sure when I watched the game whether Man City were playing badly or Man United were just playing really well. And what next for Manchester United and Erik ten Hag? I honestly think he's a dead man walking. There's no way that this is sustainable. After all, they've now lost 11 games. 11 games. It's worth remembering that Solskjaer's season that led to his sacking, they lost 12 times. They've got 0 chance of making the top 4. And you have to go all the way back to 1990 for a season where they lost more than 12 times. And the idea of Manchester United getting through another 11 games without at least losing twice is... But they did play really well. They played with purpose. There was one-touch passing. They were playing their way out of trouble. It looked like Ten Hag had finally got these players playing. And then it all fell apart for them. You would hope that when we go to the Etihad, we'll be able to put on a better performance than even Chelsea did when they got that draw. And Manchester United, who I think you could say came close to getting something out of the game today. But we really haven't shown the kind of champion mentality that both Liverpool and Man City showed this weekend. The defeats we faced against Newcastle where... All right, it was a controversial goal that we conceded, but we weren't able to come into that game with enough firepower to score a goal. The disappointment of the defeat to Villa, even though we were all over them. Okay, if Kai Havertz's goal wasn't disallowed at the very end, we would have got a draw from that. But the abject performance against Fulham away and the bewildering defeat at home to West Ham are kinds of games that this Liverpool side and this Manchester City side don't seem to have in them. So we go to Sheffield United tomorrow. Interestingly enough, if we win by 5 clear goals, we become the first team in any of the 4 tiers of English football ever to win 3 consecutive away games by 5 clear goals. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. I honestly don't care. Because these records, they come out of nowhere. I'd never heard of this record before. And so if we do make it to 5-0 or 6-0 against Sheffield United, which is eminently possible, even if I'm loath to predict it, then great, we've got a record. Last season we broke a record. We became the team that spent the longest amount of time at the top of the table without winning it. These are records that don't mean anything compared to trophies. At the end of the season, the only thing that's going to matter is who's actually lifting up that big trophy. And if it's going to be us, then we are going to, in the next 11 games, need to show what both Man City and Liverpool showed in the last 2 days. Then we have a game on Saturday against Brentford, which, even though they've got their Ivan Toney back, is another must-win game. And if we win that game, we will be top of the table when Liverpool take on Manchester City at Anfield. And obviously, somebody's going to drop points there, possibly both of them. So we could remain top of the table when we go to Manchester City. And who knows, if Chelsea can get a draw there, if Man United can play as well as they did there, something's not quite right with Manchester City at the moment. For a full-strength team out there, are they conserving their energy? They've got lots of games coming up. Or are they just not gelling? Is the hunger just not there? I know it sounds ridiculous to be saying that when they've just beaten Manchester United 3-1. But isn't that the mark of a team that wins things? When they're not playing particularly well, but they still pick up the 3 points? I expect us to field a fairly unchanged side tomorrow, but there will be notable returnees. Hopefully Zinchenko and Tomiyasu, if not fully fit enough to play, will be on the bench with Jesus, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Tom's Partey. We could definitely do with squad depth going into the final 11 games. We are almost certainly going to have challenges in this last 11 games where we need to dig in and get a result. But we haven't shown that yet, really. We've shown swashbuckling football. We've squeezed the life out of teams. We've managed to restrict them to hardly any shots. You can say, if you like, that we've played teams who aren't doing well, but we've played and beaten Newcastle, Liverpool, Palace, West Ham. Most of these teams are up there or thereabouts. If we are going to win the league this way, it's going to be hugely exciting, but is it really even possible? When I did my prediction video not that long ago, I actually predicted these results. You would do, wouldn't you? I said that Man City would beat Everton, Chelsea, Bournemouth and Man United. And I've predicted a draw for the game at Anfield because Man City don't do very well there. But it was kind of a prediction I did before Liverpool's huge injuries. Are they going to have enough players back to take on a Man City if their tails are up? Let's say those two teams do draw and we do get something out of the game at Man City. This title race is going to be really close. But any hopes I had this weekend that it would go down to a 2-horse race, that Liverpool would stutter, that Man City would stutter. I mean, I didn't really think that Man City would do anything except blast past Man United. And the scoreline flattered them a little bit, I think. They left it very late. And they didn't really add to their goals tally, which means they're still not near us in terms of goals scored, which is something that I really want to talk about a lot more, because at the turn of the year, everybody said we needed to bring in a striker in order to get those goals, and we've shown that's not the case. Can we march on in this way? Well, looking ahead at our games, assuming that we do beat Sheffield United and we do beat Brentford and we are able to get something out of Man City, then it's Luton at home, Brighton away, Villa at home, Wolves away. That game might be rescheduled as well because Wolves play Coventry. So we might be facing a fixture congestion at the end of the season. And that's where it really gets tricky for us, because in the last 4 games of the season, assuming that we do put that Chelsea game in there and perhaps the Wolves game in there, then it looks like we're playing Man United, Tottenham away and Chelsea at home. And Man City's final 4 games are away to Forest, home to Wolves, away to Fulham and at home to West Ham. So if they play like they have been, and they don't necessarily play that well, you're still going to pick up 12 points from those. And Liverpool's last 4 games a little trickier. Spurs at home, West Ham away, Aston Villa away and Wolves at home. You could still see them getting 12 points. So I suppose my biggest concern at the end of this weekend is that if the players have been watching Liverpool somehow win at the last gasp, watching Manchester City somehow grind out 3 points and look convincing at the end, even though they didn't for long spells during the game with a fully fit team, does that put extra pressure on the Arsenal team? Travelling to Sheffield United, knowing that they have to win now. They could be the team that falters this weekend after all. It could be us that drops points and sort of drops out of the 3-horse race. I can't call it at the moment. It's too close to call. But I will be watching the game tomorrow, hoping that we do what we've been doing and get that early goal that settles the game. Sheffield United are pretty abject, aren't they? I mean, they're one of the worst teams ever to play in the Premier League. But the Premier League is close. And I know it's a cliche, but anyone can beat anyone. And I just have a little bit of concern that I'm sharing with you in hopes that you can allay my concerns in the comments section and say that I'm going completely mad, that we'll batter these, we'll break the record for the 3 consecutive wins with more than 5 clear goals. And I don't know, maybe that's etched somewhere on a wall or we can celebrate that. Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching up till now. And I'll do a live show after the game tomorrow just so that we can reflect on where we are. And hopefully it will be a really positive mood, because I really don't want to go back to the turn of the year when so many corners of social media full of angry Arsenal fans talking about how Arteta's got to go. We need a striker. Edu's crap. The fans are to blame for lowering the standards. I don't want to go back to that. And I'm sure you don't either, because you're a sensible, intelligent person watching the Gooner channel. So, fingers crossed. No, actually, I'm not going to say fingers crossed. Let's just go and do the business at Sheffield United. Have a bit of a break before we take on Brentford. Take all 6 points from the next 2 games to go top of the table. And then I want to hear if people still think that we're not title challengers. Till I see you tomorrow after the game. Be lucky. Lots of love.